60 isn't the new 40. It's the last classroom before the test, and most of you are failing the first lesson. I'm Catherine. I'm 90 years old. I've buried my husband, my parents, 2 brothers, and more friends than I can count. For 30 years, I believed what everyone said, that 60 was the start of my best decades. I waited, I planned, I postponed. And by the time I understood, half of what I thought I had was already gone. What I'm about to share isn't advice from a book. It's 10 lessons I earned by waiting too long, because by the time you feel old, it's already too late to prepare. If you're in your 50s or 60s and still think you have plenty of time, this is the video you'll wish you'd watched sooner. Comment 1 if you're in your 50s or 60s, or 0 if you're watching this for someone you love. Let me start with the 2 things I took for granted the most: my body and the people around me. At 62, I walked 3 miles every morning without thinking about it. I climbed the stairs in our old house 2 at a time. I carried groceries up from the car in one trip because I was proud I could. I thought this was who I was. I thought this was permanent. At 80, I had to rest halfway up those same stairs. And the worst part wasn't the weakness. It was realizing I had watched it happen in slow motion and I hadn't done anything to stop it. Here's what no one told me, and I wish someone had sat me down at 60 and said it plainly. Muscle you lose after 60 almost never comes back. Not the way it used to. You can get stronger, yes, but the foundation you had at 50, that's the foundation you're working from for the rest of your life. Everything you don't use, you lose. And once it's gone, your world gets smaller, 1 inch at a time. First it's the stairs, then it's the grocery store, then it's your own bathtub, and one morning you wake up and you're being told where you can and cannot live because your body made the decision for you. Strength at 60 isn't vanity, it's independence at 80. Now let's talk about the other thing that quietly disappears while you're not looking: your people. We had a group. We called ourselves the Tuesday Girls. 4 of us, every Tuesday for almost 30 years. Coffee, card games, someone always brought something from the bakery. Sarah went first, breast cancer, then Elaine, then Margaret 2 winters ago. I'm the last one. And on Tuesdays now, I sit by the window with my coffee and I don't know what to do with the silence. I know what you're thinking. You have your friends. Your circle is set. You don't need to go out there and start over. But listen to me carefully. The friends you have at 60 will not be enough at 80. Not because they don't love you, because they won't all be here. Let me tell you about someone I know. Her name is Dorothy. She's 85. 3 years ago, she invited the young woman next door over for tea, a 38-year-old mother of 2 who was drowning in her own life. They became real friends, not polite neighbors, real friends. Dorothy now has a book club with women in their 40s, a walking partner who's 52, and a goddaughter she never had. And here's the strange thing. Dorothy is the youngest person I know. Friendship after 60 isn't a luxury. It's life insurance. So here's what you do. You lift something heavy this week, even if it feels foolish. You walk farther than you did yesterday, and you invite someone 20 years younger for coffee, and you do it before you think yourself out of it. Your body is listening. Your people are watching. Start now while they still can. Now, let's talk about the conversations most people would rather die than have. Literally, my mother had her stroke at 89. She was standing in her kitchen making coffee, and then she wasn't. She lived another 6 months after that, but she couldn't speak clearly, couldn't write, couldn't tell us what she wanted, and because we had never, not once, sat down, and asked her the hard questions. We spent the next 3 years guessing. 3 years. Where did she want to be buried? Was the second marriage ring supposed to go to my sister or back to his family? What did she mean when she said years ago that she didn't want to be kept alive on machines? Did she mean all machines, or just some? We argued. We cried. My brother stopped speaking to my sister for almost a year over a set of china. China. My mother's china broke our family because no one had the courage to ask her, while she was still herself, what mattered. I know why we didn't ask. Because asking felt like wishing it would happen. Because talking about death felt like inviting it. Because she was fine, and we had time, and there would always be another Sunday dinner. There wasn't. Silence about death doesn't protect your family. It punishes them. So here's what I'm asking you to do this month. Write it down. Where the will is, who has power of attorney, what you want at the end, and what you don't. Tell one child and tell one person who isn't your child. And when was the last time you actually told your children where your will is kept? Not in theory, the drawer, the file, the folder. If the answer is never, fix it this week. Now let's talk about the other conversation nobody wants to have, but this one is with yourself. Retirement didn't save me. It exposed me. I thought I was ready. I had the savings, the plan, the calendar full of things I'd always meant to do, and for 3 years after I walked out of that office, I was lost. Not sad. Lost. I'd been someone at work for 41 years, and when you take that away, I didn't know who was left. I'd wake up and not know what the day was for. Let me tell you about a friend of mine. Her husband retired at 67. He was a good man, a proud man, the kind who defined himself by what he built. Within 18 months, he was gone. The doctors called it a heart attack. She and I both knew what it really was. He couldn't find himself without his job, and nobody had warned him he needed to. Retirement isn't a reward. It's a test of who you built besides your job title. Build that person now, while you're still employed, before the office door closes behind you and the silence tells you who you really are. Comment 1 if you've already had the death and money talk with your family, or 0 if you keep putting it off. Now, let's talk about something quieter than the body, but often heavier. Richard and I were married for 63 years. 63. People congratulated us as if that number meant something extraordinary, and it did. But here's what no anniversary card ever tells you. Of those 63 years, maybe 10 of them were years where we were both truly healthy enough to do the things we'd always said we'd do. The rest were good years. They were full years, but they were years with his back and my knees and the surgeries and the appointments and the slow gathering of all the small things that make packing a suitcase feel like a negotiation with your own body. When I was 68, our oldest friends invited us to Italy with them, 2 weeks in Tuscany. I remember standing in the kitchen with the letter in my hand, and Richard said what we always said. We'll go next year. We should save the money. We'll have more time later. We never went to Italy, not once, not the next year, not the year after. Richard had his first surgery at 71, and something shifted in him, and we both quietly understood that Italy was a door that had closed while we were standing right in front of it. Marriage isn't measured in years. It's measured in healthy years. If your partner is still healthy today, and you are too, and there is any trip, any celebration, any ordinary Tuesday afternoon you've been saving for some perfect future, please say yes to it this week before the body decides for you. Now, let's talk about the hardest one on this list. My brother Frank and I didn't speak for 8 years. 8 years. over an argument so stupid I can barely remember what started it. Something about our mother's house, a decision that felt like a betrayal at the time, words said at the wrong moment. I know what you're thinking. It couldn't have been that simple. But it was. It almost always is. I thought I had time. I didn't. Frank had a heart attack at 72. Sudden, no warning. My sister-in-law called me from the hospital, and I sat in my car in the parking lot for 15 minutes because I didn't know what to do with myself. He died angry. So did I. I will carry that silence for the rest of my life. Every birthday, every Christmas morning, every time someone mentions his name and I have to nod and smile and say yes, he was a good man, and pretend I know that from the last 8 years instead of the 30 before them. Forgiveness isn't weakness. It's a door that only stays open while you're both alive. Whoever just crossed your mind when I said that, the sister you haven't called, the friend you stopped writing, the brother you told yourself you'd reach out to eventually, pick up the phone today, not tomorrow. Today. I don't care who was right. Being right is the most expensive thing an old woman can own. Let me tell you about the hardest shift I ever made as a mother. My son David called me one night when he was 34, and he was going through something hard in his marriage. Nothing I hadn't seen before, nothing I couldn't have solved with one good afternoon and a few blunt sentences. So that's what I did. I solved it for him. I called his wife. I made suggestions. I gave him lists. I thought I was being helpful. I thought this was what mothers do. 6 months later, he sat me down in his kitchen, and his voice was soft, but his hands were shaking, and he said, "Mom, I need you to stop. You're going to cost me my marriage, and then you're going to cost me you." I don't think I understood grief until that moment, because what I grieved wasn't just my son's boundary. It was the version of motherhood I thought I had earned the right to keep forever. I know what you're thinking, but they're my children. They need my wisdom. They need me to protect them from the mistakes I already made. No, they don't. Your grown children don't need you to fix things anymore. They need you to show up, to ask how they are, and then actually listen to the answer, to remember the name of the coworker who was giving them trouble 3 months ago, to hold the space for them to be wrong and not wrong, and figuring it out in their own time. That is the work. That is all of it. Love without fixing. That's the real work of motherhood after 60. And if you do it right, something strange happens. The door they started closing on you quietly opens back up. Not all at once, not with any announcement. But one Sunday, they call just to talk, and you realize you have your child back. Not because you corrected anything, because you finally stopped trying to. Now let's talk about something smaller that turns out to be one of the biggest things I'll leave behind. Write things down. I started my journal when I was 78. I wish to God I had started at 60. Not a diary, not a record of what I ate, just things. The way my father laughed when he told a bad joke, which was most of his jokes. My mother's bread recipe, in her own words the way she said it, not the way it's written in cookbooks. The name of our first dog. The sound my kids made when they ran into the house from school. My grandmother's phone number, which I knew by heart for 40 years, and now cannot retrieve no matter how long I sit with it. All of that is fading. Not in one big collapse, in a slow leak I didn't notice until the bucket was half empty. Memory isn't a backup drive, it's a candle. Write things down before the wind takes them. Buy a notebook this weekend, not a nice one, a cheap one, so you're not afraid of it. And write one thing down every night. You'll thank yourself more than you can imagine. Now, let's talk about the two truths that changed how I live every single day. For most of my life, I was afraid of three things. I was afraid of losing Richard. I was afraid of my body failing me. And I was afraid of being alone at the end. All three of them happened. Richard died 7 years ago on a Tuesday in a hospital bed I had slept next to for 11 nights. I had my small stroke at 83. I stopped driving at 86, which took from me the last small freedom I had thought was mine forever. Everything I spent 60 years being afraid of came. And yet, here I am, still laughing, still me. That is the thing nobody tells you about fear, and I needed to be this old to finally understand it. Fear tells you the thing you're afraid of will destroy you. Fear insists that when it happens, you will not survive. Fear is a liar, the cruelest liar you will ever live with. I am not saying what I lost didn't hurt. It hurt. There are mornings it still does. But I am still here, and I am still someone, and every single one of those fears whispered to me for 60 years that I would not be. Courage at 90 isn't the absence of fear. It's proof that fear lied about what would break you. So whatever you're afraid of tonight, whatever you're postponing your life for because you're scared of losing it, please hear an old woman tell you, you are stronger than that fear. You always were. Now, let's talk about the other truth, and this one I still can't quite make peace with. The last 30 years don't move like the first 60. They evaporate. I was 70. Then I blinked, and I was 80. Then I blinked again, and Richard was gone. The morning he died, we didn't know it was the morning he died. He sat up in the hospital bed, and he asked me about the weather outside, and he said it looked like it might rain. He said something about how we'd always loved rainy afternoons together. I remember smiling at him and telling him it did look like rain. And then I turned and poured us both some water. That was it. That was our last ordinary conversation after 63 years of ordinary conversations, weather, water. I thought there would be 1,000 more mornings. There were none. This is what I need you to hear. You are not getting a warning. There is no bell that rings when the last ordinary Tuesday is the last one. You are inside of it right now and you don't know it, and that is the whole trick of this part of life. Who are you putting off calling today? Who are you going to see this weekend? Really see, not just nod at? Whose rainy afternoon is still waiting for you? The last 30 years evaporate. Please, please drink them slowly. If I could sit across from the woman I was at 60, here's what I would say to her. You think you are starting. You're not. You are choosing. You are choosing which friendships to water and which ones to let go of kindly. You are choosing whether to teach your body to stay strong or to treat it like it will carry you no matter what. You are choosing whether to tell your family the true things while you still can speak them, or to leave that silence behind like a bill for them to pay. You are choosing whether to forgive the brother, call the friend, take the trip, say the yes. Every small refusal you make at 60, I promise you, you will feel at 80. And every small yes you say at 60, you will thank yourself for when your days begin to count themselves out loud. 60 isn't the start of the golden years, it's the last classroom before the test, and the test is how you love, how you prepare, how you let go. I'm 90 years old. I still call my son every Sunday, and I let him talk more than I do. I still write in my journal, even on the mornings when my handwriting is not what it was. I still say yes when my knees say no. I still sit by the window with my coffee on Tuesday mornings, and the silence is no longer my enemy. It's company now. The truth is, the life you're afraid of having to live at 80 is not decided at 80. It is decided this year and the one after that, and every small choice you almost didn't notice making. So this is what I want for you. I want you to be strong in your own body for as long as you possibly can. I want you to have a friend you met last year and a friend you've known for 40. I want you to have written down the small sacred things before they leave you. I want you to have said the hard things to your family and the kind things to your brother and the true things to yourself. I want you to have gone to Italy. Whatever Italy means to you, I want you to have gone, and I want you to know when the last ordinary morning comes that you did not waste the ones before it. That's what an ordinary, beautiful old age looks like, and you can still build it. You have time, less than you think, but more than you fear. Start today. Thank you for sitting with me. Really, a woman my age doesn't often get to talk this long and have someone listen, and you gave me that today. I'm grateful. If you want to sit with me again next Sunday, hit that subscribe button. A like tells YouTube to show this to another woman who needs to hear it today. Maybe someone who is still quietly waiting for the right year to start her life. And one last thing. Comment 1 if you're going to make that phone call today, or 0 if you're going to write that first journal entry tonight. I will read everyone. Go gently, my friend, and don't wait.